This is a review for your quiz on 3-5 and 3-6, which was adding and subtracting like fractions and unlike fractions. So first couple examples. How do you add or subtract fractions with the same denominators? So we add or subtract the numerators and keep the denominator. So for negative 9/11 plus 3/11, we keep that denominator of 11. And then negative 9 plus 3, well, they have different signs, so I subtract, keep the sign of the larger absolute value, we get negative 6. Always double check to see if you can simplify. In this case, we can't, so there's our answer. The next one is 8 2/5 minus 5 3/5. Well, we can borrow from the 8 to make this fraction nicer so that we can simplify without having to change these to improper. So in this example, since the denominators are 5, I know that 5/5 is equivalent to 1 whole. So I'm going to borrow 1 whole from the 8 and change that to 7. And then I'm going to add that 1 whole of 5/5 to 2/5. And then I'm left with 7/5. So this is the same as 7/5. 8 2/5 is equivalent to 7 7/5 minus 5 3/5. And once I've done that, I can subtract the whole numbers. 7 minus 5 is 2, and 7/5 minus 3/5 is 4/5. Can't simplify any further, so there's my answer. When we have fractions with different denominators, we have to get them to have the same denominator and then just do the same as we just practiced. Add or subtract the numerators, keep the denominator. So I look at this first one, 3/4 minus 1/3. I'm going to figure out what denominator that's common between the two of them. So 4 and 3, I think of 12. 4 times 3 is 12. Whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. 3 times 3 is 9. Okay. 3 times 4 is 12, so I have to multiply the numerator by 4. 1 times 4 is 4. 9/12 minus 4/12 leaves me with 5/12. I just subtracted the numerators, keep the denominator. I can't simplify any further, so there's my answer. 7/8 minus 32/64. They don't have a common denominator, but I can get them to have a common denominator of 64. 8 times 8 is 64. 7 times 8 is 56. Minus, and then I can just leave that second fraction, which is nice, 32/64. I keep the denominator of 64, and I subtract 56 minus 32, and I get 24. Then I want to simplify this. I need to divide 24 and 64. Let's start with dividing each by 2. If we divide each by 2, I'm left with 12/32. Well, I can divide by 2 again, and I'm left with 6/16. I can divide by 2 again, and I'm left with 3/4. I can't simplify any further, so there's my final answer. Negative 7 5/6 minus 3 8/9. Well, they don't have a common denominator, so I need to get them to have a common denominator. When I look at 6 and 9, we can do a common denominator of 18. So I'm going to do negative 7 and something over 18 minus 3 and something over 18. Well, to get 6 to 18, I have to multiply it by 3, which means I have to multiply the numerator by 3 as well. 5 times 3 is 15. And then to get 9 to 18, I multiply it by 2, which means I have to multiply 8 by 2, which is 16. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to change this subtraction to plus negative. I'm going to add the opposite. When I do that, now I know that we're just going to add the numbers and keep the sign. 7 plus 3 is 10, so I keep the negative. And then 15/18 plus 16/18 is 31/18. Well, now, here's what I need to do. I need to convert 18/31. That is the same, so 31 over 18, make my pen a little bit smaller here, is the same as 1 and 17/18. So I need to add that to my -10. So this actually turns into -10 plus 1 and 17/18. -11 and 17/18. Then we have 4x over 9 plus 3x over 3. Common denominator here, 9. I can keep 4x, and then I have to multiply 3 by 9, which means I have to multiply 3x by 9. I'm sorry, by 3. 3x times 3 is 9x. Now I'm going to add these together. 4x plus 9x gives me 13x over 9. Can't simplify that any further. I'm just going to leave that as is. Tammy went to the store and bought 2.3 pounds of apples and 1.75 pounds of oranges. How many total pounds of fruit did she buy? So all we have to do is add together 2 3/10 plus 1 75/100. Really important when you're adding decimals that you line up the decimal, can fill in a 0 wherever we have an empty space, and then I'm just going to bring my decimal down and add these like normal. 0 plus 5 is 5, 3 plus 7 is 10, 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. So she bought 4 5/100 pounds. Very specific. Then this one, if you have a board that is 36 5/8 inches long and you cut off a piece that is 12 3/4 inches long. However, the saw blade destroys an additional 1/16 of an inch. How much of the board is left? So we start with 36 5/8. We subtract 12 3/4. And then we also need to subtract 1/16. Well, I look at all of these denominators, 8, 4, and 16, and I see that a common denominator is 16. So 36, and to get 8 to 16, we multiply by 2. So I just multiply 5 by 2, which is 10. Minus 12, and then to get 4 to 16, multiply by 4, which means you got to multiply 3 by 4, and then minus 1/16. All right, so now what we need to do is I need to borrow from this 36 so that I can make this fraction bigger to subtract these values. So I'm going to change this to 35, and then 1 whole is 16/16, so I'm going to add that to my fraction of 10/16. And that leaves me with 26/16 minus 12 12/16 minus 1/16. So now I can take 35 minus 12. 35 minus 12 is 23. And then I know when I subtract fractions with common denominators, I keep the denominator, and then I take 26 minus 12 minus 1. And that is 13. I can't simplify that any further, so there's my answer. I just have to add on inches. And there's my final answer. All right, last one. Ron ran 1 3/4 miles on Monday and 1 2/3 miles on Tuesday. How many total miles did he run in the 2 days? So 1 3/4, I just add them together, 1 2/3. I need them to have common denominators. 12 would be common denominator. 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 3 is 9, because remember, whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. 3 times 4 is 12. 2 times 4 is 8. So now I have 1 plus 1, which is 2. 9 plus 8, which is 17 twelfths. Well, this 17 twelfths is a improper fraction, so I'm going to change that to a mixed number. 12 goes into 17 once, and 5 are left over to get from 12 to 17. So really it's 1 5 twelfths plus 2. Together, that is 3 5 twelfths miles.